So so you used to come to the Mayfair when you were a child. It must have been a very exciting occasion coming in, and I bet it was a lot bigger in those days. Can you tell me what you remember about it, and where it was?
Well, we came to live in Hereford when I was 9. I was born out in the country in Kingston. Dad, my mum, and we got a house in Hereford, and then every year when the Mayfair came, my dad used to take me into town to watch it being put together. But it was huge then. It's not like it is now. It started round about almost at the railway station, and would reach as far as the old bridge in Bridge Street, up Commercial Road, through High Town, all the way down Broad Street and he recalled it being the other side of the bridge as well when it was in St Martin Street, but that was long before I came along.
Okay, and when was this?
Well, I was 9, so this would have been around 1964, 65.
I understand that back in the day there weren't just rides. A lot of the stalls were like showmen.
Oh yeah. There was loads, like shooting galleries. I loved the shooting galleries because I used to try and take home my mum a little prezi of, because she gave me the money to go on the rides and things. I always remember being frightened of the Helter Skelter. I never went on there. But yeah, there was loads of it.
Do you remember any of the showman's stalls?
Yeah, there was, the one I remember distinctly was what was it called? There was a striptease show, and I mean, you were only allowed in if you were 18. I was 14. Well, no, it wasn't even that. I was 12, 13, I think I was. And I got in anyway. I was a bit sheepish about it, a little bit embarrassed. And there were like little, as far as I can remember, there were like little vignettes. So there was a stage with a little chaise longue and a lady sort of scantily clad with a scene behind. So the Parisian lady would be sat there, and there'd be an Eiffel Tower in the background, a sort of accordion playing somewhere, and then the curtains would draw, and when they opened again, it was really the same lady, but she had a different costume on and a different sort of attribute in the background. They were sort of another city she was in, like a Turkish city. And I remember the dance of the Seven Veils.
Right, I'm going to come over there now because I want to be looking at pictures. So this one, okay, you can identify where this is. Do you think this is the place where you're talking about?
Yeah, that would be Commercial Road. There's a Kerry in the background.
And the audience are quite young, aren't they?
I wouldn't be surprised if my face was in there. It's not, but I could have been there. This looks like the 1950s or 60s.
This is the bit that will take time, Rick, finding the pictures.
That's all right.
So
Cuba Dancing Girls. I don't think you saw the whole show at once. It was like a little magazine of different shows. But I do remember these little vignettes, as I called them, where there was a lady on a chaise longue with very little clothing on, but there was no nudity really. It was just very scantily clad.
And could this have been the Seven Veils?
Yeah, I think...
Don't say yes.
it's a leading question.
Yeah.
Well, look, there's the dance, the Seven Veils there in her arm, and you buy a ticket at this counter. You go in through the curtains, and inside there was another little stage of curtains where the show was.
Here we are.
Rosetta, the striptease girl. I don't remember her, but I wish I'd had actually.
I noticed each one of these has got numbers on. There's number 2 is Rosetta, number 3 is the...
Oh, I see. So they were different shows. Admission 6pence. Look at that. I didn't see that. I would have remembered.
What are you talking about?
The cremation of a human living body. No, I'm rather disappointed about that, actually. I would have liked to have seen that. I had a morbid curiosity then. Now this is Commercial Road, and this is looking down. Well, that's what was the ABC. It wasn't the ABC. It was the Ritz, wasn't it? Down here is where the Stonebow unit is now, the municipal car park. But it was a no man's land for years. I don't recall what it was, but it would have been part of the prison, the Hereford prison, wouldn't it? Because there's the lodge house, the governor's house in the bus station now. Here, I think it may have been it would have been the Hereford prison. But it was pulled down long before, I came of age.
So do you remember any of the stalls in here?
Yeah, the boxing booth. I saw the boxing booth on its very last day in Britain. And when I was a student in Cardiff in the 90s, there was a vintage showcase of fairground attractions that had been restored and were being shown for the very last time. Some of them, I don't think they'd been together for a very long time anyway. And the compare, I recognised it immediately as being the boxing booth that I'd seen as a kid. And it was there. I couldn't believe it.
So it looked like this one here?
Yes, it was amazing. And the compare got up and told everybody. This was in would have been about 1993. Told everybody that it was the last time it was going to be seen. It had been bought by an American and was going to be shipped over to America, which I thought was a bit of a shame.
So when you were a child, did you visit the
Yeah, I
boxing
did.
booth?
Yeah.
So what happened there?
Well, I think I seem to recall there were two brothers, and they'd just knock hell out of each other and invite members of the audience to come in and do a couple of rounds with them. I think it was a cash prize, a £5 or something like that. But you'd watch these people beat hell out of each other. It was horrible, actually. It was brutal. I couldn't imagine two brothers. That really shocked me. I remember being quite shocked as a little boy.
Did you go in on your own, or you were accompanied?
I was on my own, yes. Wow. But I think I was about 10 or 12 by this time.
Was there anything else in this area that you remember? Yeah,
there was, I think in the 70s, I recall seeing an Arctic lorry. In the trailer was a stuffed whale. A blue whale, I think. It was massive. It was about 40 foot long. And you went in through one flight of stairs. And there was a gangway along, so you could have a look at the whale, and you came down another flight of steps on the exit. do remember that. I think it was a bit whiffy though. Formaldehyde.
Hang on.
That's Commercial Road again, isn't it?
What do you think? Do you think that was where the glamour girls were?
Yeah, there it is, under that street lamp.
What is?
Where the glamour girls were, that's, well, it couldn't be anything else. That's the size of it, isn't it? But I mean, they had brides everywhere. Crazy villa. Gosh, look at how many people are there. This is much later, isn't it? Sort of the 80s or something.
What do you think that is there? Is that a traction engine?
That's a generator, isn't it? I mean, later on, or rather earlier on, I mean, all these, you know, rides were powered by these generators that you see today. But I mean, my father used to recall when, you know, back in the day, then in the early days of the Mayfair, everything had to be powered by a traction engine. So he said he remembers, you know, a whole convoy of traction engines coming into town when the Mayfair was on. Must have been quite a spectacle. There it is, look.
So what is?
Well, there's that. There's the glamour girls again. That looks like a coconut shy to me. There's loads and loads of sideshows. You just don't see them now, do you?
Do you have any family connection with?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that. Yeah, allegedly, although my mother was a bit of a sort of... She'd elaborate.
Explain.
Well, one of my great uncles had asked my uncle to go with him to the fair. He was originally started off with a coconut shy, and he ended up owning Battersea Fun Fair. Whether there was any truth in that, but they refused to. You know, they wouldn't let my uncle go with him. Perhaps if he had done, we'd have been quite well off, really.
I was going to ask you about there being stories about girls wanting to run away with the fair.
Yeah, well, I think that's a myth that comes with the fair.
Tell me what the myth is.
Well, that you were somehow, you know, drawn to the attraction of the culture, and then you were, you know, you go off with the family to the next town and so on. But there was any truth in that, I don't know. But certainly that's what happened to my uncle, or didn't happen to him, Uncle Walter.
Any memories of that ride at all?
I wouldn't have gone on that, it was too scary.
That's the rotor.
I was a bit of a wimp, really. I didn't go on the big wheel or anything like that. I was... Oh, the rotor. Oh, yes, this was the... well, later on, it wasn't the rotor, was it? Wasn't it the wall of... Well, motorbikes just sort of ride round on it, didn't they? And then I think later on, it became the ride where the floor sort of, as it span round by centrifugal force, it would hold you to the wall. So the floor then would sort of just sink down. So as it was spinning, you'd be stuck to the wall. Yeah, there they are, look, stuck to the wall in the paintings. I didn't go on it. But there was, you know, you could walk along the top to watch the whole ride. I was too scared. Didn't go on the big wheel either. Traction engine, amazing. I did see a few traction engines, but you know, I mean, they were just there for show, really. They hadn't, you know, their job in the old days was sort of replaced by large diesel generators, I suppose. Well, when we did go to watch the construction of the fair, you know, we obviously held my hand. I was 9, and I remember on one occasion where I just didn't want to hold his hand anymore, and I told him, but I could see that it had upset him, and I'll never forget it. You know, it was just, but I still didn't want to hold his hand, and I just remember his face and just looking a bit upset, but he let it ride, you know. But I'll never forget it. It's just a moment.
And what did sorry, I'm interfering now. What sort of effect did it have on you, do you think, sort of the boxing and the sort of the striptease? Because you were quite young, weren't you? Did it?
Well, I didn't like it. You know, I've never liked boxing, you know, as a sport. But, you know, to watch two brothers sort of beating each other up until they got, you know, member of the public to step aside. I just sort of have memories of it being quite brutal and a bit nasty, you know. I think it was bare knuckle as well. But the paintings, you know, when I saw it in Cardiff, that, you know, the naive paintings, it was a fantastic thing, and it was obviously retouched over time. It was just amazing spectacle. But it was definitely the one I saw as a child, and then I saw it again, you know, when I was in my 30s. It was quite amazing.
Right, I was going to ask you how old you were when you first started visiting the fair, and if you lived out of town, how did you get to town for the fair? Did you come in the evenings or the daytime?
I can't honestly remember how old I was when I first went, but I probably almost definitely would have gone with my mother and possibly my auntie and my 2 cousins, sort of probably late afternoon, early evening. I'm guessing the first few times I went there. Yeah, that would be probably late 60s. Yeah.
So did you come in a car or public transport?
Mum might even have met me from school when I first initially started going there, and then obviously later on, Dad had a car eventually, and we would have gone in, and it was a hell of a thing, you know, the fair coming to town. It was really, really exciting because there wasn't much else in the way of entertainment going on in Hereford, obviously, in those days. I think we probably had a TV in the early 60s, but only just, you know. Yeah, and it was a real event. It really was, yeah.
Any special memories?
Special memories. I always loved the rockets. That was my favourite thing. Yeah.
What were the rockets?
The rockets used to be a rocket ride. They looked like little rockets off something like Fireball XL5 or something, and that was the ultimate ride really in those days for me. Yeah, yeah, great. It's probably the most expensive at the time as well, so it was the last thing we used to go on.
Explain it to me. I'm imagining them going around this way, but did they used to tilt up and stuff?
They used
like
to, yeah, I think they used to tilt. Yeah, it was on long arms, and they used to spin around lowly, and then they'd lift and lift and lift, and you'd sort of be at, yeah, that kind of angle. Yeah, and you know, you'd never experienced anything like that before. It was wonderful. I loved it. Yeah, and I did like the bigger things as well as I got older. The big wheel, helter skelter, but yeah, the rocket was always a firm favourite. Yeah.
Do you remember which part of town they were in?
I got a feeling that they were in Broad Street, King Street, somewhere around that area. Yeah, and the helter skelter was there, I think, as well, and the big wheel, because you could see the top of the library on the big wheel when you went to the top of it. And again, it was a view. You get views of Hereford that you know, you'd never ever seen before, which was another kind of facet to the whole thing, you know.
Didn't find it scary. No.
This was slightly later in life, but no, I enjoy a sort of bit of a thrill ride, so it was great, yeah, really good. But I can remember also when I was younger, going with my mum, and there were so many people there that when I was very little, I was really frightened that I was going to lose mother or auntie or whoever we was with. I just thought you'd be lost forever because there were so many people there. You'd never find anybody again. You know, it was really quite daunting when I was small. Yeah, the throngs of people there was amazing. Yeah.
I'm just intrigued about what about some of the more sort of risque elements that were there. You know, like the boxing ring and the.
Yeah, those again are boxing rings. A vague memory. I can sort of picture it in my mind, but I didn't really go and visit as such. I think possibly there was such a big crowd in front of it as well that you couldn't get too close to it. There was so many people there. It really was just the busiest place in town at the time when the fair came. Yeah. What else am I thinking? And just the length of the fair from St Martin Street basically right down to the bus station and beyond. Yeah. They even had there was a little car park opposite Chad's at the time, and they even used to fit rides in there, so it wasn't just in the streets. They used to sort of have extra ones tucked around was it the waltzers or there's one called the Noah's Ark as well, which was a bit like the waltzers, and that was animals you could sit on, and that was pretty fast, and I think that was in the car park opposite Chad's, if I remember rightly. And then as I got older, going down there when we were sort of in our 14, 15 kind of, it was like, you thought it'd be really cool to go to the fair, do you know what I mean? Yeah, good place to pick up girls. Not that we ever did, but you always kind of had that in the back of your mind because there were so many people around, and yeah, happy days, yeah.
That's really good. I love that idea that, you know, you go down and pick up, and then
Yeah,
nobody speaks to
no,
anyone,
exactly,
do they?
nothing going on whatsoever, you know. No.
Well, that's what's great with that picture,
it's classic,
but
isn't
it's before these two. They were little then. I'll show you the picture in a minute.
Music seems to be quite a big thing that people remember hearing.
Sure, yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you remember them playing music at on the
Especially on the
rides?
waltzers, especially, yeah, that was the grooviest ride in town, I think, the waltzers at the time, wasn't it? Yeah, and there was always loud pop music, basically, yeah. I think it was just sort of morphing from rock and roll into pop music, and yeah. Again, that's why it always seemed like a cool place to be when you were 15, because there was lots of loud music and bright lights, and yeah.
I used to love the firing range, you know. I thought I was a bit of a sharpshooter.
Right. And the coconut shy and that, but you always
Yeah.
thought it was fixed, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you thought the
Could never knock anything
coconut
over.
was glued
That's
to
right. And then some guy used to come along and knock them over, didn't he?
They
But you
always
always,
just have these huge stuffed, fluffy toys that you needed 2,000 points for or something like that.
humongous things, yeah.
Yeah.
Glow in the dark kind of. You could hardly carry them, could you? That's right. You didn't see many people carrying them home either, did you? I think they were just there for show.
But I don't know why, I always thought the Helter Skelter was one of the scariest things for me.
Did you?
Just
Really? Yeah. No, I used to love
freak
that.
me out,
I used
you know,
to
just
like
wouldn't
that.
go on it.
I've never really gone on to these Drayton Manor Park and places like
No.
that in my later life, which I thought I might do because I quite like a thrilling ride, but I've never been to one.
But my mum used to tell me that about the Wurlitzer, you know, that one of the chairs that spin round as it went round in a
The
circle.
waltzers, yeah.
There was one, she told me, it was quite old, I mean, it must have rotted in time or something, but as you were spinning round, the faster you went, a canopy would go over it.
Oh, really?
So it was like a sort of crawling
Right.
caterpillar, you know, or a serpent really quickly. So you were concealed in this
Oh,
whole
wow.
body,
Really?
and you screamed.
That's right. And as it was spinning, you could shout at the guys who ran the ride, couldn't you? And they'd spin you around even
yeah,
faster.
that was the word. Yeah, those were the
Waltzers.
wordlets.
Yeah.
But this was like it was going forwards. It
Right.
was just going faster and faster.
Do you remember the Noah's Ark?
No.
That was like it was a carousel kind of thing, but it was a lot faster, and they had
That might have, yeah.
various animals on it,
Yeah,
and some
Really quick.
motorbikes as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
I do.
which always looked great.
I
Yeah.
remember what you were talking about earlier opposite Chad's. That was an old cemetery years ago, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah,
And the gate.
yeah. There was a metal gate there,
Don't know
wasn't
what
there?
happened to the gate?
Yeah. Yeah, you went up a few steps into it, like the one in Commercial Road, a bit like that, wasn't it? But a smaller. Yeah.
Did either of you ever go on a ghost train?
Yeah, ghost train, still like that.
Yeah, I remember the ghost train.
And they used to have the Hall of Mirrors as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
With fortune now.
Yeah,
Was the ghost train a bit tacky, or was what could you
It was
describe
tacky.
Yeah,
it a bit?
yeah. It was tacky. It wasn't like.
But it was scary as well. you weren't so cynical younger, were you? You
No.
just let yourself be scared, I suppose.
Yeah, you try and act cool, but
Yeah.
things would still jump out and freak you out, wouldn't they? That's right. Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. I wish I could remember some of these side shows more.
The cremation of the human living body.
No.
Shame.
I remember the whale though that you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. Was that actually during the fair, or was that a kind of
I thought it was next to
my-
the boxing.
right?
ring.
I remember it being down
yeah.
the end of Commercial Road.
Oh,
Yeah.
you think it was an attraction?
I don't know if it was a separate thing or not.
Oh, I thought it was part of the Mayfair.
Right.
Definitely. But there was some issue about it not being around for much longer because it was
Decaying, was it?
Decaying, rotting flesh.
My dad said he went and helped set up the fair once or twice when he was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, because you could earn a measly amount of money, couldn't you? They were notoriously mean, these fair people, to paying the local lads to go and help them. But some guys used to go off and join the fair, didn't they?
Yeah, we used to think that was a myth, but it was. Yeah, they were quite rough and ready. Some of them.
For
weren't
sure, yeah. I think it must have been a really hard life.